Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a pretty fascinating framework that makes this truly massive claim that unconditional love is the universe's most powerful, most relentless, and most purposeful force. We're talking about a force that uses everything, and I mean both the good and the bad, to accomplish its ultimate goal.
But, that bold claim immediately runs into this huge question, right? It's one we probably all asked. If love is supposed to be so powerful, then why does it so often involve stuff that feels like the exact opposite? Pain, discipline, even suffering. Well, that central paradox, that's exactly where we're going to start our deep dive.
All right, so to even begin to answer that question, the framework we're looking at says we have to do two things first. We have to completely redefine what we mean by love, and then we have to understand the specific rules of the game for how to interpret all its claims. Okay, so at the absolute center of this whole idea is a very specific kind of love. It's known by the Greek word agape. And look, this isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's an unconditional love that has absolutely nothing to do with the receiver's actions or whether they deserve it. Think of it like a one-way street. It just flows entirely from the giver, no matter what the recipient does or doesn't do. And this is where you can really see just how different this is. I mean, we all know what fondness or affection or romantic love feels like, right? But notice how all of those are conditional. They kind of depend on the other person. Agape, in this framework, is something else entirely. It's not just presented as a feeling. It's described as the very personality of God. Now, this whole framework, it comes with its own internal logic, its own set of rules. And to get what it's saying, you kind of have to play by them. The core idea is this. The source material is considered completely true, and anything that looks like a contradiction, well, it's not. It's just a paradox that fits into a much larger plan. I love this jigsaw puzzle analogy they use. You don't throw a piece away just because it doesn't seem to fit right now. You set it aside, trusting that you'll see where it fits once you see the bigger picture. Okay, so with those rules in mind, the framework goes right ahead and tackles its biggest challenge. How can this all-powerful love possibly work through things that feel like it's complete and total opposite? Well, let's take a look at a passage like this one from Lamentations. The argument being made here is that affliction isn't just random or hateful, it's a purposeful act. The idea is not that God enjoys this stuff, not at all. It's that it's being done out of a much deeper compassion, one that's serving a higher purpose, that in the long run totally outweighs the short-term pain. And this next one is a perfect example of that paradox. I mean, giving someone up to Satan, that sounds like the absolute least loving thing you could ever do, right? But in this framework, it's presented as a corrective measure, not some kind of vindictive punishment. It's a harsh act for sure, for the extermination of the flesh, but the ultimate goal is to save the spirit. It's tough love, but it's purposeful. The story of Jacob and Esau is used to really flush out this idea of temporary assigned roles. So the argument goes that when the text says, Jacob I loved, but Esau I hated, it's not actually about feelings. Not at all. It's about assigning different roles within a bigger divine plan. You've got a role of honor and a role of dishonor. But, and this is key, it's a plan where everyone, both Jacob and Esau, ultimately reaches the highest glory in the end. So how can all these paradoxes actually make sense? Well, this framework proposes what you could call an operating system for agape love, and it's all built on 3 universal laws. Just 3 laws. Let's break them down. Okay, law number 1 is called cause and effect, or inside out, and it really does work like a chain reaction starting from the inside and moving out. The logic goes like this. Step 1, God loves himself unconditionally. Step 2, because of that, he's able to love us unconditionally. Step 3, when we finally get that, when we really realize it, we can start to love ourselves unconditionally. And then, and only then, can we genuinely, truly love others in that same way. The second law is all about attention. And the core idea is pretty simple, actually. What gets your positive, sincere attention grows. What gets negative attention, it withers. It's like watering a plant versus ignoring it. So, spiritually speaking, this means our well-being literally depends on where we focus our attention. We have to focus it on the truth of God's unconditional love for us. The framework is really clear that trying to root our self-image in anything else, well, that's just a recipe for disaster. And that brings us to the third and maybe the most crucial law of them all, leverage. Now listen to this. This law states that lasting positive results can only, and I mean only come from investing in short-term disciplinary pain. If you try to avoid that pain, that's a one-way ticket to a much, much greater long-term pain of regret. We're talking a suffering that the source says is 100 times worse. This right here, this is the core mechanic that explains all that tough love we were talking about.
So how does this leverage actually work? Well, it operates by favoring the principle of grace over the principle of law. So think of law as external force. It's rooted in distrust, and it's really just for immaturity. But grace is the total opposite. It's an unearned gift rooted in trust. And it works in this really counterintuitive way by trusting the other person, assuming a positive long-term outcome, which in the end is what actually builds them up.
All right, so where is all this heading? What's the ultimate goal of this entire process? What's the point of this incredibly powerful, sometimes corrective force? Well, according to this framework, it's all designed to produce just one thing: maturity. So in this view, love isn't just some feeling you have. No, it's the final binding element. It's the tie, as the verse says, that holds everything else together. It's the ultimate sign that true spiritual maturity has finally been reached. And that maturity, it expresses itself in a very specific way. The framework is super clear on this. There aren't many fruits of the Spirit. Nope, there is only one singular fruit, and that fruit is love. All those other things, joy, peace, patience, they're just the different ways that one fruit, love, shows itself. And this all leads to the framework's final, ultimate promise. Because love is the greatest and most purposeful force in the universe, its relentless nature is a guarantee that everything, and that means the good, the bad, the pain, all of it, is working together towards an absolutely excellent conclusion for every single person. So the whole framework really leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. What if the universe's greatest force isn't something gentle and passive at all? What if it's actually relentlessly purposeful, corrective, an active, strategic, and ultimately victorious force that never, ever stops working toward its goal?